Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And this is a question that I get a lot, speculation around. Is World of Warcraft worth your time? Is it worth playing? Is now a good time to play? Should you wait until later? And we are going to be answering that question today, looking at some data points as well as looking at some of the trajectory of the game moving into the future. And as always, if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So the first bit that we're going to look at as far as is this a good time to play World of Warcraft is going to be the PvP side of things. I'm on the Drustvar website, which is doing its best to gather current player ladder activity. Do note that it is likely incorrect. To what margin? It's uncertain, but it's the best example of data that I can really grab at this point. And we are about a little over a month into this season, but we're seeing very healthy numbers. So currently right now, we can only track the United States and the European region. In the United States, over the last 72 hours, we saw 96,304 solo shuffle rounds played, which is significantly more than we had seen in the previous season. Likely, this is attributed to the fact that it is a new patch. I think that the game is actually very well balanced at the moment as far as PvP, when in comparison, if you look at older expansions where it might be one or two specs that dominate, and if you're not playing those specs, then you really can't have a good time. That is really not the case, and they are now going to be doing a massive sweep of changes to pretty much everything except Rep Paladins, which if you're a Rep Paladin, you're probably going to be pretty happy because, I mean, when we look at the data points, almost 80,000 of these games were played by the Paladin class. In particular, 43,000 on the Retribution Paladin. So like the number one spec, really, if you're going to be going after any sort of type of rewards in the game at the moment when it comes to PvP, would highly recommend it. But this is very healthy considering, you know, this is a patch where people were kind of expecting PvP to be on a decline or on a downhill. There weren't a lot of updates, but I think what's carrying it is just gameplay, which is honestly the most important component. And as long as we keep seeing ongoing changes, then it's likely just going to keep seeing an upward trajectory. When we look at the European region, it's kind of more of the same. I believe once we're done, our Boomkin chicken dancing here is done loading, you'll see that the data is actually very similar at 95,502 solo shuffle rounds. So almost 200,000 over the last 72 hours. You extrapolated that out to the week, it's probably between both regions in the ballpark of maybe 400,000 solo shuffle rounds, and that's just solo shuffle. That's not taking in 3v3, 2v2, or Battleground Blitz. If you added all those in, likely rated PvP matches is probably pushing closer to 500,000 total between just these two regions, which is surprising because it's also not including Latin America. It's not including East Asia. We don't have any of those data points. So if we added those in, it's likely going to be a bit higher, but maybe not by much. But the point is that it's actually very healthy. It's very balanced at the moment, and you're going to have a lot of fun on pretty much any specialization that you want to go on to for any format in the game, which is, you know, a remarkable position. I'm glad that it's finally starting to see some of the numbers that are justified towards that level of gameplay success. And I do hope that the tuning is an ongoing thing from this point. But if you're thinking about playing PvP right now, it's a great time to get into it. And when we move and look forward to the future as well for the next expansion, right? It's the next thing, the major thing in the future, Midnight. They're looking at removing add-ons, bringing it back to its core gameplay, focusing on the UI and stepping up its baseline experience. So really, it's solid right now. And the future is also looking promising. So if I were to recommend somebody just for trying to come in from a PvP standpoint, this is a really good time. I think you're going to be investing, you know, early. It's like buying Palantir at $7 a share, and we're going to be moving up from here, moving into the future. So I think it's a really good time. When we look at Mythic Plus, the data is even more just basically out of the ballpark. In the first week, including all regions, and do note that all regions includes Korea, Taiwan, and China, which we weren't able to get for the PvP data, there was over 4 million Mythic Plus runs being completed in week 1. This did dip down, expectedly so, to 3.5 million by week 2, 3.2 million by week 3, and then down to 2 million so far for week 4, which is kind of expected with Mythic Plus, right? When it first comes out, everybody's excited for the new season. They're chasing those dopamine hits from some new gear upgrades, and as they get more gear week to week, they've completed most of their achievements and their rewards, the participation starts to go down. But this was a massive boom, and they've been investing a lot of time into Mythic Plus's development, focusing focusing on improving the experience overall by simplifying kind of the UI and simplifying the effects, the spell effects that go on the ground to make them a lot more visually appealing. I think that this has paid off a lot. What I found most interesting though about this data is the ratio. Now we obviously know Mythic Plus is going to have more people doing it than PvP. PvE is more dominant than PvP at the moment, but it's the ratio, right? When we look at United States, we can see that there was just under 1 million in the first week. Compare that to the metrics for PvP. Maybe it was like 200,000 rated PvP matches were completed. So let's say like 1-to-7 ratio. But I think China is significantly worse than that. China, for whatever reason, has remarkably high participation when it comes to Mythic Plus, and its PvP has been degraded over time to the point where they don't even track the data. I don't know. Maybe I could talk to the guy who makes Drustvar, and maybe he could add that data in to see if it's actually 100% true. But from some of the posts that I've seen on social media, when I brought up this question about why is China's participation so much higher from PvE to PvP, because let's say it's probably like 30-to-1 instead of 7-to-1. A lot of people were saying it's due to cheating, win trading, and boosting. And that is something that I really hope that Blizzard realizes can destroy their game, and they invest resources to actively manage it, because it is 100% the main thing holding the game back at the moment. Whether you're doing epic battlegrounds and there's pre-mades that they said that they were going to go after, it still seems to be an issue, or whether it's win trading and match manipulation. They've done a bit to combat that, especially particularly with the prop paladin role when it comes to solo shuffle, but cheating is the number one thing that can destroy a game. Star Wars Battlefront, I think it was Battlefront 2 remaster or something like that. It saw a resurgence of a bunch of players because of some movie or something that showed up on Netflix, and then all those players were chased away by the existing player base's audience of cheaters and griefers. So this is something that I really hope that Blizzard will actively invest in, because it can absolutely drain a player base from the game. And considering that everything else looks so good and is moving in such a positive direction, I would absolutely hate for it to be derailed due to that minority of players that are engaging in these types of activities. And I don't know how we can raise this as like a serious concern for their bottom line, right? For their shareholders, right? This is a serious issue for them, which I get that that's the main concern. And maybe it's not as easy to automate as it is with customer service or something, but cheating can absolutely level the game out. It really needs to be looked at. That is the number one concern. If we're, I'm not just going to be shamelessly listing out all of the pros with none of the cons. That is the biggest and most dangerous con moving forward from this point into the future for Midnight, is cheating, how they're going to deal with it, and how they can punish it, and how they can make it less prevalent, because it will absolutely decimate a region like it did for PvP in China relative to PvE, because these numbers are amazing, dude. Imagine if we had basically another region of the world of participation for PvP, because what's interesting is that Korea only saw 100,000 keys. So this is paralleling PvP's decline, but it's likely the same reason for these regions as well. Taiwan at 50,000. It's likely a big parallel there as to why these regions are completely declined, whereas China is not at this point. So cheating, definitely, I'm really hoping they look at it. I hope they lock in on it and have a strategy for it, because all other things aside, I'm really enjoying my time. I'm logging on every day. I'm playing every day, grinding, having a good one, thinking about expanding as well into different avenues of the game as well. Just looking at these numbers and the excitement for the players across the board has definitely got me in a very positive place right now for World of Warcraft, which I know for a lot of people, it's not. It's always bad. It's always doom and gloom. It's always dead. Why are you playing this? You're wasting your time type of deal. But from my experience, I think that it's actually in a really good spot, likely moving into a better spot. So now is the time to get in. Don't miss out on it, because obviously as we move closer to the end of the season, participation does tend to boom at the start and then decline towards the end. So get in before it's gone, basically. If you're looking for fast queues, I would always recommend playing a healer or a tank in any of this content, so it's going to get you into groups infinitely faster. But I have also noticed that if you play less popular specs in solo shuffle, so I was playing Fury Warrior, it's less popular, my queues over the weekend were borderline instant. It wasn't until upwards of closer to the end of Sunday that they started to slow down. Like, I was so surprised. My brain was on overload with how fast the queues were. So if you want to play a DPS, go for the DPS that are less popular. So it's like a Fury Warrior, Survival Hunter, these types of specializations that are actually either really strong or decently strong, can also help you with your queue time, because everyone's re-rolling to ret, and the game doesn't really want to put 4 ret paladins in a lobby. It would rather put some of the less popular specs in to give it a bit of a better experience. So you can sometimes skip the line there, because I know that's another major complaint, at least when it comes to PvP or LFG when trying to form a group for content. But regardless, I think now is a good time. And I think it's likely going to be getting better. And I just really hope that they lock in on the cheaters the same way that they are with the private servers. You know, they're throwing a lot of money at that, going after that, trying to make sure that they're not losing any revenue there. Let's see a little bit of that thrown at what's going on in the cheating, because it's definitely affecting the bottom line here, and I think it will erode the game if it's not dealt with. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Kind of expecting you guys are going to have the same cons listed with cheating and queue times. But right now, I don't really notice the cheating as much, because it's not the end of the season. People aren't trying to gun for those rewards, so people are just kind of just playing the game, which is nice. That's ideal for what we would want in this position. So, but those are my thoughts right now on the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.